Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Retirement conversation. And on this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased that we finally have financial advisor Leon LaBrecque. He's a very busy man, so we're pleased to have him on the show. Leon is the managing partner stroke CEO of the LJPR financial advisors firm all the way from Troy, Michigan. Now, Leon, who is considered to be somewhat of an expert in the area of finance retirement, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. Leon's going to be talking about helping people, as in yourself, to understand, manage, and keep more money. Now, who doesn't want to do that? So if you are one of the many people out there who are listening right now, and maybe you are approaching retirement, or maybe you're even in retirement at the moment, and you live in the Troy area, and you may even feel you can relate to today's topic, it might be a good idea for you just to down tools, take a break, log out of Facebook or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction, and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Leon has to share with us today. So, that said, he's a very busy man. Let's bring him onto the show. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you, Stewart. How are you?
You are so welcome, Leon. I am on top of the world and really excited to have you on the show. So, that said, let's just jump feet first in then, Leon. Briefly, in your own words, of course, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Well, Stewart, it's the big question. When do I retire? Do I stay working or do I retire? And through some of the work I've done with MIT Age Lab, we could break our lives down into 8,000-day segments. That's about 22 years. So think about it in your own life. For the first 22 years of your life, you went to school, you did what mom and dad said, you did what the teacher said, you graduated from college or you got out of the military. Then for the next 22 years, you did what your boss told you to do, and maybe you got married and you had children and raised them. And for the next 22 years, you got ready for retirement. And then all of a sudden, retirement rolled around and you didn't have any control over it. You didn't know where it was going. So what I'd like to talk about today a little bit is work or retire. When do we do it and how do we do it? And how it's so important to know, for you to know, the difference between a paycheck and a pension check. And it's amazing what I think people don't know about that scenario, how they're supposed to look at it, top line versus bottom line comparison.
Okay, I can tell this is going to be a really great conversation. Thanks for sharing that with us, Leon. And before we go any further, it must be said that anything you share from this point on, Leon, is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Can we both agree on that today, Leon?
We can agree on it.
Perfect. So, with that said, when you think about those people tuning in right now, those people you just mentioned, people approaching retirement, they're thinking about, shall I continue working? Shall I retire? What's the most common misconception that you come across on a regular basis?
Oh my goodness, it's easy. Everybody looks at retirement, especially people in defined benefit plans. Mm-hmm. And they are sitting there working. Let's say they're making $100,000 a year. And like I do a lot of cops and firefighters, and I do a lot of people who work in the car industry, and I have a lot of people, just regular working folks. And they'll look at their paycheck and saying, well, gosh, I gross $8,000 a month on my paycheck, and I'm only going to gross $5,000 a month on my pension check. And I go, wait, stop. Pension checks and paychecks aren't the same. And here's the biggest point. If you have a paycheck, you have all kinds of things coming out of it. I mean, think about it. When does the bottom line of your paycheck ever look like the top line? And it never does. So we're taking out federal income taxes. We're taking out state income taxes. We're taking out Social Security taxes. We're taking out Medicare taxes. We're hopefully contributing to a 401k. We may be contributing to our pension. If we're in a union, we might be paying union dues. And then, Stuart, we're going back and forth to work. We've got job-related expenses, which is the transportation and the lunches and the retirement parties for the other people who are smarter than us. So when we get down to the bottom line of that paycheck, it's a lot smaller number. When you look at a pension check is subject to federal tax and most of the time subject to state tax. But there are no Social Security taxes coming out. There are no 401k contributions coming out. There are no pension contributions coming out. And I don't have to go to and from work. Here's a good example. I just talked to a firefighter, actually a fire captain of a fire department here in Michigan, and they were making about $75,000 a year. Their paycheck, their pension check came out to about 75% of their pay, and they'd gone home to their beloved and said, what do you think? And she said, well, what are you, stupid? You're making 25% more working. Stay working. Well, we looked at it. Because of the way this pension formula had worked out, it was about 2.5% times years of service, and he'd been there about 25 years. We figured out that he was actually paying the city to be a firefighter. When it came down to the actual bottom line, because he didn't have to contribute to his pension, and he didn't have to pay into Social Security, and he didn't have to pay into Medicare, and he didn't have to pay union dues anymore, and he didn't make any more contributions to his 457 plan, he was actually paying the city about $1.58 an hour. And that comparison of work versus retire is very, very important. We provide that as an education program to a variety of places around Michigan, including Ford Motor Company and cops and firefighters and a lot of people. It's the bottom line that counts. It's the most important thing that we can look at.
Right.
So I think what we got to get people to do is take a look at the bottom line and not the top line. In fact, I've even come up with spreadsheets and little checklists that people can do that with.
As a reminder, my guest today is financial advisor Leon LaBrecque, managing partner and CEO of the LJPR Financial Advisors Company in Troy, Michigan. And today's topic is helping people understand, manage, and keep your money. Leon has just shared some great examples of just that. And I'd just like to move forward now, Leon, and speak about some of the pitfalls that are out there. What kind of pitfalls do you come across while you're out there helping your clients?
Oh, my gosh. Let's start with taxes.
Right.
Taxes are exceedingly complex. And so many people run into all the problems. In fact, I've ended up writing books on 401k plans and IRAs for CPAs and for the public just to help them with that. So taking money out of your plans too early can result in 10% penalties. Taking your money out too late can result in even a more abhorrent penalty, a 50% penalty, which you won't forget too often. And also just paying attention to all the different tax rules and the tax brackets that we can be in. So it's really important to pay attention to taxes. That's one of the main threats. A second threat would be obviously when to take Social Security and how to do our Social Security. I've calculated over 100 ways that we could take Social Security, particularly if we're married. And married people have to really seriously consider how they'll take their Social Security. So my wife is 5 years younger than I am. She will take her Social Security when she hits 62, but I will delay mine until 70. If I die before her, she'll receive 100% of my much larger Social Security. So that's another piece. But probably the biggest threat, and this is the major threat, and I don't think a lot of us think about it, we might live to 100. And Stewart, I hope we do, but I hope we do it really well.
Right.
So we've set these plans up and we've built these plans so that they're based on a regular life expectancy of, let's say, about 84 years old. Well, I've got a 96-year-old mother that I'm going over to visit today, and I'm going to go see her and bring her some cookies because she's still fine. And what if I live to 101? So how am I going to have my money in my life last the same amount of time? In fact, I guess how I put it is, how's my last $10 going to be a tip to the ambulance driver? So really what we want to do is pay attention to longevity, taxes, and legal repercussions, the repercussions of Social Security and how those are done. And to do that, you have to have a plan. You have to build a plan, and you have to build a model. And you can't just play it by ear. What you do at the beginning of retirement is different than what's at the end.
Do you come across resistance from potential clients who come speak with you? Is there some resistance there to financial planning?
What I tend to see is there's not a resistance to financial planning, but there's that notion of they're not sure what to do. And I call it the WebMD effect. They diagnose it themselves by looking on the internet, and they look at a calculator or something, and they'll say, oh, well, I looked at it, and it looks like I don't have enough money, or I do have enough money. I go, you're only looking at the first part of retirement. Let's talk about mobility. Let's talk about where you're going to live. Let's talk about how you're going to pay for your medical expenses. And usually I'll ask them, take your cell phone out of your pocket. And sometimes they'll bring a cell phone out. I go, when was that invented? And they go, I don't know. I said, about 10 years ago. If you'd have retired 11 years ago, that wasn't in your budget. And that usually strikes them. They go, you know what? You're right. I said, there's a lot of unknowns, and this planning is a dynamic process. And we have to pay attention to it as a dynamic process, not just as a one-shot deal. You're going to do this for the rest of your life, literally. So let's do it right.
You know something, Leon? I remember 5 years ago when I opened up some snail mail came through my letterbox. I was back in the UK, and I opened it up, and it said something along the lines of, "Are you approaching retirement?" And it was just such a huge shock for me because, yeah, I was 50 and I'd never, of all the snail mail I'd received throughout my whole life, nothing about retirement. That was for quote unquote old people, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And I'm a very young 55-year-old now. I'm 55 and I'm still somewhat, well, I can't even say somewhat. I'll hold my hand up. I've not done any kind of retirement planning, financial planning. So I'm still in denial of, yeah, right. All right, I've got loads of time to sort this out, and I'm still young, I'm fit, I still play football, I do football coaching, or soccer as you guys call it in America. Is that a dangerous way to approach to approach things? I mean, I'm 55, I'm sure there are other listeners out there who are similar age, and maybe they're experiencing this denial thing. Is that something you come across on a common basis? And if so, what do you have to say about that?
Of course, it's just like WebMD. How many times do we go, I don't need to go see the doctor? Particularly us males. Oh, I don't need to see the doctor. There's nothing wrong with me. I need to check the oil in my car and check my tires, make sure the pressure is correct, but I don't need to worry about my blood pressure. And I'm amazed at how many people know their tire pressure, but not their blood pressure. So it is very common. What you're saying is exceedingly common. In fact, I even see it amongst CPAs. I do a lot of education programs for CPAs. And I see CPAs who their retirement plan is to die at their desk. But the sooner you get started, the more important it is. And so I sometimes tell folks, I would say, Stewart, you know what, let's not talk about retirement planning. Let's talk about tax planning. And you go, what? That's important. I go, let's get you to save some more money on income taxes by putting more money in your 401k. You go, yeah, let's do that. And then you went, oops, you tricked me, didn't you? You tricked me into retirement planning. And that's exactly it. Sometimes we have to change the frame and say, do you want to save money on taxes? Yeah. Do you want to have a better life? Yeah. Okay, then let's do these things. And then when we're done, you're going, wait a minute, we're doing retirement planning. Yes. And I think that's kind of the thing. And I would, if I could rephrase it, I'd call it life planning, not retirement planning.
Right.
And I usually say, when I compare work or retire, I usually say work here or don't work here. That's the real question. So if I'm talking to somebody who works for Ford Motor Company, the question isn't work or retire. It's, do you want Ford to pay you to work at Ford, or do you want Ford to pay you not to work at Ford? Do you want the city to pay you to be a police officer, or do you want them to pay you not to be a police officer? Do you want the government to pay you Social Security, or do you want to pay into Social Security? Those are the questions. And when you look at it that way, Stewart, I think it gets easier. Hopefully it did for you. Hopefully I helped you out here. And you're going
definitely some very powerful questions that you've put to myself and the listeners out there. So really grateful for that, Leon. So you've got me kind of curious now. How many years have you been a practicing financial advisor then, Leon?
Oh, a long time, 40. I graduated from accounting with a degree in accounting in 1977. Mm-hmm. And then went to law school and then set up a master's program in financial planning for a local college, which was pretty successful. And then started writing books and doing things on financial planning and retirement planning. I've been doing it ever since. It's just been a great thing.
So 40 years, I'm sure you've helped hundreds of people in that space of time. But when you think back to all of those people who you've helped and the people you're helping now, what's the most important to you about being able to help those clients to achieve their desired outcomes?
Keep it simple and create action. So I had one of my very first clients was a brilliant fellow who had dropped out of high school but was a genius. And he had caught me at the very early part of my career. And so I was full of exuberance and wanting to share my knowledge. And I remember sitting with him for about 2.5 hours and filling a yellow pad with all kinds of great data. And he said, Leon, boy, you're really a smart fellow, but I don't understand what you said. And I was kind of exasperated. I said, look, save 18% of your pay. He goes, that I understand. And from then on, he did it. And 30 years later, he retired with $4 million.
Wow.
And it worked because I learned my lesson. Keep it simple. Make it easy to understand. And a lot of times in our profession, everybody wants to make it complicated. And in reality, it's not that complicated. Businesses want to make money. Technology will change. We'll live longer. And we need to stay in participating in this system. And ignoring problems doesn't make them go away. That's probably the biggest thing. So it's actually funny. It's common sense. And I sometimes teach a class called Small Good Choices, which is about how to make little tiny decisions that really make your life better. We talk about, take a selfie of the contents of your house. Your house burns down, now you have something from the insurance company. Take a selfie of your wallet. You lose your wallet, you got it. I mean, that's not money per se, but it's life, and it's understanding that there's simple things make it work. So I think the most important thing I've learned, keep it simple.
And what do you personally get from it then, Leon, when you're able to help somebody achieve their desired outcomes when it comes to tax planning, retirement planning, and having that peace of mind beyond retirement? What do you personally get out of it when you're able to create that transformation for them?
I'm glad you used that word transformation, because that's what it is. I love helping people. And I've kind of based my whole life on financial education and being a fiduciary. Mm-hmm. So wrapping myself around the tell, don't sell approach. So I can literally get up every single morning. If the market's up or down, I know I'm going to help somebody. Right. And if the tax laws change, I know I'm going to help somebody. Mm-hmm. So it's a great thing in my life that I can really enjoy what I do at least 95% of the time. And the other 5 I have to put up with. But 95% of my life I can say, boy, it's a good day today. Today I get to help somebody out. Today I get to do something good. And it sounds a little corny, but I think there's a lot of people out there who are givers, they're teachers, and they want to make things happen that way. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just make things happen, make people better.
Well, we love the corny stuff here on Impact Makers Radio, because that's what makes the listeners really connect with you. It's that corny, touchy-feely kind of thing, which shows that you're human. You're not just a financial advisor. It's not just about the numbers. It's about that human relationship. So I really appreciate you sharing that part of your personal character with us. So while we're actually speaking about yourself then, Leon, could you then spend a brief moment telling us a little bit about your background, and especially your formal education and your experience as it relates to the topic of tax planning, retirement planning, and all the other things we've been speaking about today?
Well, I'm a little bit of a nerd and maybe a little bit of an overachiever. So I got my undergraduate degree in accounting, and then got a scholarship to law school at the University of Detroit Law School, where I did tax law. Went to work for a large CPA firm in Michigan, and then from there decided to go to a local college and start a master's program in finance while teaching tax. During the course of that, I became a certified financial planner and a chartered financial analyst. But one of the coolest things I ever did was take a behavioral economics course at Harvard from 2 of the pioneers in it, and that actually taught me how people think about money. Mm. We always had been taught in regular grad and undergrad school that people were rational economic beings. And Kahneman and Tversky, who were my instructors, taught us that they aren't rational beings, that people act in weird ways and they have certain heuristic biases. And the more I understood that, the more I understood about people, the better I got at what I did. So learning about people was probably the most important thing, not learning about the tax law or learning about accounting or learning about spreadsheets, but learning about people and how they react to their spreadsheets. So there's frequently, I'll do a financial plan on a 3x5 card and write down, 3 things on the card and hand it to somebody. I say, Stewart, here, go up your 401k contribution, stay invested in the market, and use low-cost index funds. And you go, wow, that's it? I go, yeah, it'll work. Don't worry about it. It's going to work. And so it's those kinds of things. Again, take a whole bunch of data, take a whole bunch of complexity, and then find simplicity in it. That's my mantra.
When you think about those people who do come to you for your help, those people approaching retirement, and they're wanting to know more about, understanding and managing and keeping more of their money in retirement, what would be your final thoughts that you'd like to impart with them before we finish up with our last question for today?
Well, educate yourself. This is a process of education. So again, go back to my analogy that a lot of people, if they were going to fix their plumbing, they'd go on YouTube and look at a video and they'd figure it out and go look it up. But with money, they just want to remain woefully and blissfully ignorant. And so it's not the best way to plan. So you'll either, have a plan, if you fail to plan, you'll plan to fail. And that's probably the biggest piece. So educate yourself, find out as much as you can, and find out different sources of information. Don't just rely on the product orientation to get there, but instead look at unbiased information from lots of sources.
Well, it's been a great topic today. We've been speaking about understanding, managing, and keeping more of your money in retirement. If that's the case, then, Leon, what's the quickest way, what's the easiest way for somebody listening in right now to reach you?
Website. Our website is great, and it's chock full of information and all kinds of good things. So ljpr.com. would be a really easy way to communicate with us. We've got all kinds of ways that they can give us an email, or they can ask a question and set up an appointment, or even see some of our courses. So it'd be a great way, and there's even some videos there if they wanted to see that. So ljpr.com is our website, and we'd always welcome anybody's questions.
Okay, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we have been listening to financial advisor Leon LaBrecque. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Leon. You have certainly demonstrated without a doubt that you are a true educator and advocate and trustworthy advisor for your clients' success. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stewart.
You are so welcome, Leon. And I'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, you, the listener. Without you, well, where would we be? We wouldn't have anybody to talk to. So thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative conversation with one of the top financial advisors in the Troy, Michigan area today. Again, his name is Leon LaBrecque. Make sure you do check him out, give him a call, or visit his website. As he said, there's some great resources on there. Whatever you do decide to do, I'm sure that after listening to Leon's 30,000 foot overview today, like I said, there's so much more he could have shared. I'm sure if you do get in touch with Leon, you're going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading finance professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Retirement Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.